Check it. This is Blackbook session number 19, a project I worked on for one of my fellow subscribers. If you're wondering how I formulated this idea, stick around. I'll be guiding you through one of my many self-taught systems I use to complete a piece, step by step, so that by the end of this video, you can understand them and apply them yourself. To start, I open up the book, choose a page, and grab a pencil. Many writers use this tool when they start working on an idea for a piece. Pencil allows you to find a groove you can run with. It also allows you to experiment with your letters, and mistakes can easily be corrected since you have an eraser at your disposal. For example, I wanted to include two different pieces on these pages, so I decided to work on the lower half of the book. Since the sketch was just a rough draft, there wasn't too much pressure to having things perfect. Fortunately, I managed to create a suitable structure for the letters to fit accordingly in their designated space. I was able to figure out the letter stylization by just experimenting with the pencil. The rhythm and flow I added to the structure of the letters, along with the extra details such as arrows and extensions, gave them an extra kick. Mistakes happened and ideas changed. When they did, I just brushed them off with the eraser. The marker outline is essential for your letters. It determines the final structure of your letters that you sketched. Once you follow your outline with a permanent marker, it's there to stay. You can still add minor details to your letters though. Keep that in mind. For this project, I started with a brown fine point Sharpie to create the initial outline. I carefully traced over every letter, arrow, and cut from the initial sketch. Starting with the fine point marker allowed me to create crisp and precise details, ensuring that even the minor details I wanted to finalize were recognizable. I took my time and worked carefully. I didn't want to make mistakes while using the permanent marker. However, things did get a bit confusing for me when some of the letters collided, so I didn't fully trace over the structures of a few of them until later on. As I kept working, I realized that I was still able to add extra details to the letters, such as parts of the letters falling off to give them some more flavor. Erase your original sketch after placing the outline for a cleaner look. Take a look at when I applied this step. Not only did it clean up my initial sketch, but it also helped the outline become more prominent and more noticeable. 3D effects will have your letters looking visually appealing. This will also enhance the overall look of your letters, and it will help fill in negative space on the page. Whatever direction you decide to have your 3D going, you're gonna need to have a strategy. As you can see, I chose to start applying the 3D on the right side of my letters and stretching them towards the right side of the page. I started with the beginning letter and moved to my right. Notice how applying this step took up more space on the page as the letter started to take another dimensional form. I tried not to go over my original outline letters when I was implementing the 3D. Things do get confusing at the crossing points, and I myself am still working on this to perfect it. A solid technique I was taught was to create a bold outline around the structure of the letters and sometimes 3D. It enhances their appearance. The structure of your letters become bolder as the 3D becomes distinguishable. Fine lines and the details inside of the letters will also become more noticeable. For instance, I took a brown Sharpie with a thicker nib and began retracing the outer structure of the letters and the 3D effect. Immediately, the two units together became visually striking. Adding a thicker outline to the entire structure of each letter made everything distinct as well. Fill in the inside of your 3D and add details to it. It'll take it to a new level. Notice how when I applied the 3D using my outline color, I left certain areas empty to create slots, which improve the overall look. This is just one of the many techniques that you can apply. When it's time to move on to the fill-in, it's okay to not know what colors or fill-in method you're going to use for the inside of your letters. Take your time to consider a color scheme. Figuring this out will bring in a broader perspective of colors you might want to use for different areas in your piece. For instance, I wasn't sure what colors I wanted to implement inside of the letters. so I examined my markers and pondered. With respect to the outline, I was able to decide that light colors such as light pink and light brown would be very suitable for my outline letters. I went with the fill-in method that split both of the colors throughout the letters. Because I was able to come up with the color scheme for my letters, my brain also thought of some colors that might look good inside of the 3D. So I picked up 2 markers that were different shades of gray and started filling in the empty rectangular slots that I left inside of the 3D. Layered backgrounds behind your letters can enhance the overall look of your piece. More colors come into play here. Take the colors you already have laid down into consideration. You gotta be particular about these details that you want to add. For instance, I introduced 3 different shades of blue markers with respect to the other colors. I like adding bubbles, so that was the first particular background detail I chose to apply. I started to apply the first layer around and behind the letters. Notice how right away empty space on the page started disappearing, including the blank areas in between the letters. I like to call these air pockets. I similarly applied my second particular detail, which was somewhat of a brick wall. It extended across both pages of the book. I filled in that detail to take up even more space on the page. Add an outer outline for a subtle layer of style around the physique of your letters. This grounds your piece. It establishes a dividing line to be able to distinguish the outline letters along with the 3D from the background. Use a color that'll stand out. Notice how I carefully applied the outer outline around the physique of my outline letters and 3D using a zinc yellow Molotov paint marker. This layer around the outline made the piece a bit brighter and more pleasant. Then I added a couple of more floating bricks of this color to ground the layer with everything that's going on in the background. White highlights inside of your letters are gonna be a game changer. You need a strategy to pull this off. Your letters are gonna start to shine and pop out. I've noticed that fine tip nibs work the best. As you can see, I added this effect strictly to the left side of my letters, in between the outline and the fill-in. That's the strategy I applied here. I used the Signal White Molotov paint marker 1.5mm nib. Similarly to the 3D step, I started on the first letter and made my way to the last one. Subtle effects is a useful technique to add final touches onto your piece. It adds more value to the page. You can choose what subtle details you want to implement and what colors you think will look good on the page. For instance, inside of the 3D, I decided to apply more subtle details, which were lines flaring in the direction the 3D was also heading towards, east. Since I was using paint markers at this point, the subtle effects went right over the previous layers I had applied. Notice how using 2 different colors added subtle hints of style to the piece. There are plenty of more subtle effects you can add onto your piece. My Blackbook sessions are jam-packed with them. Check them out to get more of an idea of what I mean with these. For this step, I just picked one. There's nothing like throwing up your people as you're getting ready to wrap things up. Plenty of writers apply this step heavy, including myself. It finishes up the piece strong. You can throw up anything you want here. Quotes, your boys, your crew. Some writers even throw up their lady. This is realness and a part of you. As we can tell, I like throwing up my channel emblem and the click, as well as the people who show love to the channel. Shout out to Lotus, iCops, Hayes, Mickey, Elixir, Blur, and last but not least, Bones. And there we have it, Blackbook session number 19. I hope you guys found this video helpful and picked up a thing or two. For you writers who want to step up the details on your letters, watch the video that I linked in the description. Until next time, keep writing. Peace.